Good evening, everyone. We just released the publication, the 24th edition of India's Top 500, and we are talking about India's Top 500 value creators. These are the companies who, over the past 5 years, have really created value internally, as in with intrinsic factors, as well as for the market. That is for all stakeholders. But how have they achieved that? So when we were delving deep into the success factors of these companies, we realized that there is a very common thread. Apart from sustainability, innovation, these companies have been at the forefront of transforming themselves digitally. And that is why we have this panel here where our topic delves on digital disruption. And we have a very eminent panel. So we have IT service providers, we have Aditya Birla Capital is a finance company, and we have a conglomerate. And these are the companies who are at the forefront of either digital disruption themselves, or they are enabling other companies to do so. And that is why my first question actually would be perhaps to Deepak. And one thing is, and we were discussing this on the sidelines, is there anything like a digital disruption first? And if yes, what are the technologies which you feel could lead to digital disruption for companies?
So without doubt, I'm sure everybody here in the audience is pretty much familiar with, I mean, you put it digital disruption, digital innovation, technology innovation, digital transformation. There are many ways to put it, but then, yes, it's a reality. And it's not about whether it exists. I think it's more about who's the early adopter, right? So at the end of the day, the early adopters are the ones who are going to have that edge, will have the higher market share, will actually set the pace for the market. So it does exist, it's a reality, and the sooner we accept it, the better it is. On the other question, and pardon me, I missed the second part.
What are the technologies which you feel are disrupting the world?
I think the theme in general is AI. And if I look at beyond AI, again, cloud pretty much brought about that digital disruption or whole digitalization of infrastructure in general, right? So, but if I look at the buzzword now, of course, it's AI. Everybody is talking about AI. And yeah, that's pretty much the way forward for a lot of organizations, because a responsible AI usage will benefit organizations in informed decision making, will benefit organizations in automating a lot of their processes, will benefit, and again, it's not necessarily to do with job cuts or any of that, anything of that sort. It's more about driving an organization which is effective and efficient.
Sure, thanks. And you just mentioned about job cuts, so you're putting a more positive spin to it. Is that adoption of digital might lead to actually more efficiencies? So in fact, you mentioned about doing this across geographies. And you mentioned also about cloud, and those two go hand in hand. And I think these days it's quite a buzzword because cloud versus on-prem is back in the discussion. In fact, you have also, I think, you have been the chief author of a report called State of Infrastructure. And so you have a very in-depth understanding of what companies are doing. So what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I think what companies are trying to do is with cloud, depending on the nature of the business that customers are in today, right? There used to be a cloud-first approach, for sure. I mean, we are talking about 5 years ago. But now, since the cloud adoption has been done, a maturity level has been reached in organization, we are also seeing a trend in a lot of enterprises where enterprise have sensed and they've measured that cloud, in certain cases, it has not been successful. And they have kind of repatriated some of the workloads, which is fine. But at the same time, what we are also seeing is that companies and enterprises are becoming cloud smart now. So they are taking an approach where they are evaluating whether it makes sense for us to put a certain workload or an application or a particular use case and leverage cloud, right? Because cloud offers a lot of agility as well, right? So in case if a company wants to launch a certain service and all those services, the ancillary technology services are readily available in the cloud, right? That kind of service, if an enterprise wants to build in-house, it would take a lot of effort and time and money as well, right? So this is where we are seeing a lot of use cases. AI on an experimentation basis, I think we are seeing a lot of companies leveraging cloud for experimenting their AI use cases, trying out certain new cases on cloud, which otherwise, if they had to build their own AI infrastructure, would cost a lot, right? So these are one or two things which I would like to touch upon. There are plenty of other reasons why a company would want to and wouldn't want to go onto cloud.
Then, Deepak, if you can weigh in on this question, because this is right up your alley.
So I echo what Buland said, right? I mean, although I am a cloud service provider, but then I echo that because look, with every new technology, advent of every new technology, there is always a buzz about it. With its continual usage, there is enough data for people to make or businesses to make an informed decision on it, right? So yes, there are businesses who more and more businesses would want to go towards a hybrid environment, and a lot depends on the nature of business you're in. So, for example, BFSI, right? Would they want their core banking to be on cloud? Maybe, maybe not, right? Again, depending on the regulatory environment, there might be some workload they might want to retain on-prem while move everything else which is non-critical, but production as well as dev work as well as UAT environments onto cloud, right? From an economic efficiency perspective, right? Similarly, it also depends from market segment to market segment. It depends on the organization's technology maturity. So, for example, a large organization like Wipro or Aditya Birla may have the resources to manage, all of the, technologies or the services that cloud has to offer. But let's say SMB, SMC may not have all those resources. Besides, I think it's a well-known fact that it's not easy to get talent, right? Forget about retaining it. It's not easy to get talent. So whether it's on-prem or on cloud, this decision, kind of, there are multiple variables to kind of really work through before you really arrive at that decision.
I think if I'm not wrong, everything boils down to two buckets of investment and involvement. In many terms, that involvement also requires an involvement of resources. It also involves a lot of supervising because you are implementing everything in-house. So the maintenance ultimately takes a lot of toll. Deepak?
So I think, again, there's no one size fits all. It all comes down to what your business and commercial priorities are. So as an organization, and again, there are other factors that go beyond business and commercial priorities. So for example, we briefly spoke about scalability, right? If you have a seasonal business, so classic example, I mean, I had a customer call me today saying that, hey, look, I am consuming $25,000 a month, but next month, I'm going to be consuming $25,000 per day for only a month. Now, imagine having to invest capital to buy on-prem servers for that kind of situation. So again, seasonality comes into picture, the nature of business that you're into. So there are multiple factors. I think what I can tell you is that while organizations, there is enough in data or information available for people to make a very informed decision. Can on-prem and cloud coexist? Of course. I mean, there will be business, imperatives that will make you want to go on cloud, and there will be other business imperatives that will say that, hey, look, I'm better off on-prem for this type of workload. So organizations more likely are to have a more hybrid structure. The path, again, as I mentioned, it depends on what your business priorities are at the end of the day, right? And then, of course, it boils down to what commercial priorities are.